What up, what up, what up, everyone? Austin Smith here live with my brother, my partner in crime, Justin Young, who is our editor-in-chief here at HoopSeen.com. You are officially tuned in to the Just a Minute podcast, and this is episode number 21. And here on Just a Minute, as you know, we bring you the latest and greatest in grassroots basketball. First things first, JY, man, we got to do our West Coast connection check-in, man. What's good with you in Arizona?
Man, it's good. It's sunny outside. We got palm trees still going. I mean, life is always good. It's still steamy hot, unlike everywhere else in the nation. But, man, I'm excited. It's hot because we got so much to talk about. Listen, if you're just a sports fan, you got college football popping. Oh, you got fantasy football. You probably, like me, have some Monday morning hangover from your fantasy team breaking your heart. We got guys committing to schools for basketball. We got dudes taking visits. So it's really, I mean, if you're a sports fan, how do you not love this time of year, right?
Man, this time of year is amazing. College football is in the air. I think it's, my Bulldogs winning. It's helping my Falcons with that performance we had. But, hey, that's another topic for another day. But let me say this, JY, first. I think it's pretty cool now you're able to see college players go on these visits and they get to experience that traditional college football game, which is something that a lot of players really get to do last year and be with the fans, be with the band. It's a different experience going on campus on a game day, man. I think it's pretty cool.
There is something, you're right. I was thinking about this. So in back-to-back weekends, I've gone to a college football game and I've gone to a concert. So I've been to two different shared experiences, and the energy that you experience, and we all know this, but when you don't have that for the last 18 months, particularly if you go into a college campus, it is a whole different type of visit. We're upgrading from Zoom visits and PowerPoint presentations to actually experiencing what your college experience is like for these prospects coming into town. I'm so glad it's back. I know college coaches are really glad it's back because it's a lot easier to recruit when you get a chance to do your school in a full display on a college game day. So certainly, and we're starting to see this now when guys commit. You're getting caught up in the emotion of what the moment is, and it really is the time of year where everything kind of came together after what's really been a really rough 2 years, man. Really rough 2 years for these guys on the recruiting side of things, both prospects and coaches.
Yeah, rough is a great word to use. It's been crazy nonetheless.
Yeah.
But like you said, man, things are kind of getting back to normal. And I think everybody is excited about that. And for us here at HoopSeen, preview camp season is upon us. Yep. We kicked off our next Gen Jam this past weekend. Shout out to our junior HoopSeen manager, our guy Reggie Riley, who did a great job of organizing that. And J-Wo, we got some top guys who went there via our staff contributor, Josh Tech, who did a fantastic job of breaking down some insight. And we want to go through a rundown with you, man. Talk just a quick second, who are some of the top players at the next Gen preview camp that we had?
You're right. Our team did a great job. Reggie Riley, Daryl LeBerry, and Josh. Josh was all over it. Josh covered it already. If you've already been to HoopSeen.com, literally on Sunday night, we had tons of content already up on the site. So for Josh and his point of view, in conjunction with our staff that we had on board, which included Alexis Moore, like I said, Daryl LeBerry, Reggie Riley, all of our coaches that were there, I asked him, hey, who are the top 5 guys that played in the Next Gen Jam? And let me pause that for a second. The Next Gen Jam, 7th and 8th graders, essentially, is what it is. We had some 6th graders mixed in there as well. But what a great opportunity for our staff to see players at the entry point, right? And that's so important for us to get an idea who these players are before they start their high school season, because now we have a baseline, okay? We saw them at the very beginning of their entry point for their prospect trajectory. And now when they're a sophomore in high school, junior and senior, we can see where their game has grown. So with that in mind, that's the importance of the Next Gen Jam. It's not about rankings. It's not about, who was like the top 8th grader in the nation. We don't care about that stuff. We really don't. We want to see how well do you get better. So with that in mind, the 5 guys that impress us the most, the guys that we think have a chance to grow the most over the next 5 years, with some different filters that are built into there. Josh's top 5 are, we've got Ari Benjamin from Decula, Georgia. We've got Deshaun Tipton from Chattanooga, Tennessee. Also another Chattanooga guy, Artrell Knight. Grant Robich from Dallas, Georgia, and Christian Wofford from Bethlehem, Georgia. Those were our top 5 overall performers / interesting prospects that we want to keep our eyes on over the next 5 years. Make sure you go to HoopSeen.com, check out what all the stuff that Josh has put together in conjunction with our staff that was there. They're understanding the long-term play of what it is. So if you go by, we'll have all kinds of coverage this week on the Next Gen Jam, only on HoopSeen.com. You can go find it all right there and get yourself locked in. We have about 50, 60 campers for that camp. And again, great idea. by our staff. And I thought Reggie did a really good job. We had players from Texas. We had players from Alabama. We had players from Carolinas. So really, all over the place. So it was a really good opportunity for our staff to see these entry point prospects at the preview camp stage.
Yeah, without a doubt. And here's something I can brag upon here at HoopSeen, JY. We get to see these guys early. And like we always say, these young players become the stars of tomorrow. So if you're ever on the timeline, you're like, man, how did they get a picture from this kid in middle school? Well, they started their stories in situations like the Next Gen Preview Camp. You know what I mean? The situation where they get the opportunity to really showcase their talents early. And again, we're not outright telling players to come here because we're not about the hype. We're trying to give players an opportunity to start their stories. And this is a great way to do so. Players got phenomenal instruction. You mentioned Coach LeBerry, who does a phenomenal job and leading all of our camp series, man. And so the players had an opportunity, man. We know it was a blast. We were grateful for everybody that came through in the 10. And look, if you missed out, man, put that on your calendar. Upcoming middle schoolers, you want to be there. Get your story started early.
Yeah, I think it's about authentic feedback as well. It's critical feedback in a good positive way that you can go home, you can look at your game a little bit and hear it from guys. Again, Coach LeBerry has been coaching collegiately for 20 years.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Like he's been a part of, like Chris Bosh got inducted to the Hall of Fame. And Darryl LeBerry was at that entry point with Chris Bosh years and years and years ago back at Georgia Tech. So we're talking about a guy who's seen all kinds of players from all walks of life, from all different types of trajectories. And so that feedback is really critical for you as a young prospect. If you're a parent, moreover, temper your expectations a little bit, enjoy the moment more than anything else, because you have a long runway for your prospect son to just have a great experience as a teenager. And I think this is a good opportunity for these young players to get in here, get, like I said, constructive and authentic feedback to help grow your game and get better.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Because here's the thing, like we've done the research, where the guys that, like, first of all, whoever makes middle school rankings, I actually have a real problem with that, like a real major problem with that. I think it's really bad for the game, really bad for the players, because it creates this really like a trajectory that's really like hard to live up to. But we've done the history, like people that do make those, like we research it. Almost entirely the top 25 guys are never even in the top 150 by the time they graduate nationally. So like, be careful with that stuff. It's a little slippery slope. Just get better, stack up those good days. And I hope the Next Gen Camp provided that stage with our preview feedback that we did for our coaches, and especially Coach LeBerry.
3 words, big difference, JY, just get better. Keep that in mind, middle school players, parents, and coaches, man, as you all continue to progress through this basketball journey. All right, JY, let's keep moving along, man. We got to show some love to your, I guess, your new hometown, you could say. If you want to say hometown, you can do so, Arizona, whatever. But let's shout out Arizona Campus Prep, man. Their media day, like you mentioned, was fantastic, and you were able to get an in-depth look at that. Talk to us about it, man, and what went down.
Yeah, so what's interesting out here in Arizona, we've got like this, last year was this interesting change, this pivot with the pandemic. California essentially shut down, right? They didn't get to play a season until like into the spring and really into the beginning of the summer. So you had a lot of players like, man, I want to play. And so we had a lot of players move here to Arizona because of charter schools. There's a little, it's a little easier for you to play right away. The charter schools aren't sanctioned by the state. They're kind of their own group. So anyways, we had this influx of people coming in from really all over the country, not just California, but it raised the level of play amongst all the other charter schools in here. AZ Campus Prep is one of those schools, and I'm going to get into them. But we got Dream City Christian, where Shaden Sharp goes, our number 1 player in the nation. We've also got Bella Vista Prep. We've also got Hillcrest Prep. Then there's a host of others. You got Phoenix or PHH Prep. So you've got all these other schools that are here in the Phoenix area that I'm going to go to all of them. I go there, all their open gyms. Arizona Campus Prep was the first one that I went to. I think they're the number 1 team in the nation based on what I've seen. I think Montverde, certainly in IMG, Oak Hill, like those powerhouses, Wasatch Academy, no doubt about it. But from top to bottom, the depth that I've seen, again, it's just September. But from what I've seen from those guys, to me, they're the most impressive group from top to bottom. And I think you've got to start with, I mean, honestly, bro, like you could point to any guy on their team and go, that's going to be the dude. Yeah, but there was probably 25 coaches there.
Wow.
And all of us were talking. I talked to a head coach there that was there. He's like, honestly, I don't know if I've seen a practice like that where for the first 30 minutes, legitimately, there may have been 3 missed shots. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, legitimately 3 missed shots the whole time. And everyone's kind of looking around like, oh, man, you guys seeing what we're seeing? Like, popping net. I mean, it was incredible. And, like, the cohesiveness they already had as a group was really impressive. I don't like to make too many like bold predictions in September, but I think that's a team that's going to be really hard to beat, and a team that no doubt about is going to contend for Geico Nationals. I called my friends in the city of Palms. I called my buddy Travis Haddock, who runs the Kevin Durant Hoop Fest. I'm like, yo, man, you guys get ready, like get the gyms open, because when they come to City of Palms and Hoop Fest, like everyone's going to kind of want to come see these guys because they're a terrific team. I'll have a ton of stories coming up this week. Colin Smith out of Dallas really impressed me. He's taking a visit to Vanderbilt. Actually, you know, I kind of jumped ahead of myself. He will be one of my visitors of the weekend, but he really impressed me. I thought Kylan Boswell was really, really good from California. You could make an argument he's maybe the top overall guard in the nation in the class of 2023. His creativity, his shot-making ability, man, next level. Next level. So there's so many guys. Again, I'll have tons of stuff on hoopseen.com, but the AZ Compass prep, very impressive. I think they're going to live up to the hype. And man, I'll be honest with you, I'm excited to get out there and see all the other prep schools here in the Phoenix area. Dream City and Hillcrest are next on my list. Hopefully I get out there and see them this week. So we'll have tons of coverage here on HoopSeen, but also give our HoopSeen West Twitter account, give them a follow. Like, we're starting to grow that. I'm pumping more stuff into that as I'm spending a lot more time here on the road out here on the West Coast. So make sure you give that a follow as we hit the tour here in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, JY, but like, we know there have been schools out in the Arizona area that have been pretty good prep teams, but like in the past 3 to 4 years, we've seen like a shift, and Arizona is becoming a hotbed for high-level basketball, man. I've been impressed. You talked about AZ Compass Press. You talked about PHH Prep, you know, and the facility is an incredible spot they've got out there now, where they've done stuff with helping a bunch of players. Even got some NBA guys that can do work out and train. I've been impressed with what Phoenix has done, man, in terms of really igniting that flame.
You know, it's funny. I've been working on our rankings. We've been working a lot of our state rankings across the board in all of our regions that we have on HoopSeen. I was working on Arizona. I was working closely with our guy, Justin Vargas, you know, our friend Greg Rosenberg, my guy, Anthony Ray. I'm talking to a lot of the guys that are boots on the ground guys here in the Phoenix area, along with just me just getting out there and seeing guys. I'm up to 31 or 35 Division I guys already without even like starting the season for the state of Arizona. That puts them in the top 10 in the nation. Okay, so for Georgia, we're used to like 60. Texas is upwards of 80 or 75. Florida's around that same number. So like those are the high levels, but Arizona traditionally has always been around a dozen or so. And so now you're starting to see this uptick because of these prep schools, guys moving in. It does change the landscape. And again, the city is growing. It's one of the biggest cities in the country. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to come out here, because I think the basketball is so impressive. And so like, without sounding too homer and too like, you know, bias of the moment, but yeah, you're right. There are a ton of players out here, and the state is definitely blossoming. You know, it's great.
Man, well, Phoenix, Arizona, the state of Arizona, circle that on your map. You'll be hearing a lot from them during this course of this high school season, and we'll be tuned, JY. We know you're going to do a great job on everything with HoopSeen West and providing that coverage. We look forward to seeing it, man. We do. So moving on, JY, we know our next popular segment is our commitments of the week. And you mentioned one. You talked about Cameron Corrin heading to Florida State. FSU football-wise, that was an interesting football game they had. But nonetheless, hey, Florida State is a beautiful campus, and I'm guessing that Cameron had a great visit, man. Tell us a little bit about that and what Cameron could possibly add to an already impressive Florida State University basketball culture.
Yeah, so part of that culture is development, right? And I think there's no secret of what Leonard Hamilton and his staff does as far as developing players. We've seen every year in the lottery now, Florida State. So many guys have gone there and gotten better, where you do have the Scotty Barnes of the world, right, who come into campus already as a McDonald's All-American, a high-level guy. But then you look at a guy like Patrick Williams, who wasn't even a starter for Florida State and was a top 5 overall pick in the draft. Okay, or was he? He was a lottery pick. Nevertheless, like a high-level guy. But then you look at guys like MJ Walker, right, who was able to make a roster because we know, and we cover him like crazy here at HoopSeen. Sure, yeah. We knew he was a ball player. And so, like, you look at these players that have gone there that have developed, that have gotten better. Devin Vassell is a great example of that, a guy that was outside the top 150 that goes in the lottery to San Antonio. That's a first-round pick. And so you see all these types of players that have gone there and developed. I think big men that go there to Florida State really develop and really get better. And I think Cameron Corrin, going back to that, I saw him back in March at my guy Kellen Buffington's event, the opening day. I thought he was the most impressive guy outside of Anthony Black that I saw in that spring Saturday, that spring weekend. He dominated. He went head-to-head with Big Zuby, who's going to Kansas out of Dallas. And I thought Cameron really got the best of him down the low post. It was a really impressive thing. I thought he was I called so many head coaches after that camp.
Wow.
And Florida State was one of them. Like, you guys going to go recruit this guy. Yeah. The guy's really good. He fits their mold and what they do down there in Tallahassee. I don't know if it will make a big splash right now, because Cameron is a guy that I think for most people maybe have him ranked outside the top 50. I think because of their development they do in Tallahassee, what we see as after his sophomore season in college, Cameron Cohen could be a guy that NBA guys are really impressed by, and they want to see more of him because he's got a really good low post game. He's a guy that can step out and shoot. I think when he gets his body in shape there in Florida State and gets involved with what they do at the collegiate level, we could be looking at really one of the steals of this class and what they've got with Cameron Cohen.
Yeah, and you talked about development, and for Florida State, it's a yearly thing. Like, they bring in guys, they develop them. You may not have heard from them, but 2 or 3 years later, NBA draft, or 2 or 3 years later, great college player. And so, Cameron, man, you talk about having a few years to be within that system, to be within that culture, to be within that family and develop. Man, his potential can definitely be unlocked in a major way that helps him down the line in his career.
Yeah, that development word I think is really important when you look at what Leonard Hamilton does for years and years and years, dating back to his days as an assistant coach a long time ago at Kentucky.
Yeah.
Oh, Leonard Hamilton's a great recruiter. If he's in there, if he's in the mix, you're going to lose in the recruiting battle. I think that narrative has shifted, but I want to go on record and say Leonard Hamilton, his staff, Stan Jones, Charlton Young, all those guys they have down there in Tallahassee, those guys are incredible developers and coaches. Yeah. And I think that supersedes what they are as recruiters. And I want to be very clear on that. Like, that's a really important thing that we need to discuss in college basketball. How do we identify coaches that get their guys better? I think they're one of the 5 best there is in the country.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You can match them up with anybody. I always enjoy watching Florida State games, and I'm looking forward to seeing them this year in the ACC as well. Okay, let's keep it moving. Jay, while we got somebody else on the board, man, for our Cleveland of the Week, let's talk about Pop Isaacs heading to Texas Tech, all right? Man, tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah, so how do you keep, when you lose your coach, okay, Chris Beard goes to Texas. They've changed the culture. They changed what Texas Tech basketball is all about. They built them into a winner in Lubbock, Texas. So how do you maintain that, right? New coaching staff comes in. They keep recruiting. They keep, taking advantage of that profile they've done. Pop Isaacs, I'm really close to his dad, Rick Isaacs. I've known Rick for years and years and years. Wow. Every time I talked to him, there was always, I never knew what to expect, right? I never knew what school was going to be the leader in the clubhouse. Texas Tech was a school that ended up getting him and got him committed over the last week. And I love it, actually. It's an opportunity for Pop to come in. Had a great couple years up at Wasatch Academy up in the mountains in Utah. Has moved back to his hometown in Las Vegas. Has finished senior year there. What they're getting is a guy that's battle-tested. Absolutely battle-tested, that has seen every type of guard that you can see. Nothing rattles him. I think going to a place like Texas Tech where he can have the ball in his hands right out of the gate with a tough coach who has a junior college background in Coach Adams, okay, there's a mentality that I think matches really, really well. Where one of the things I love about Pop, he always kind of does it his own way. I think he's one of the top 5 point guards there is in the country. We've talked about him here on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. We talked about the top overall guys in the nation. He falls in that category. And when you get a guy like Pop who can be a knockdown 3-point shooter, but he can also be a setup guy. And I think as you build a program, and I wouldn't be shocked to see them try to sew in some junior college guys, you need to have a guy that knows how to glue all that talent together, all the while being an alpha male yourself. I think they found that in Pop, and I think he'll be a day one starter and a day one impact guy for the Red Raiders. Yeah,
man. Pop has definitely, like you said, he's been matched up against a little bit of everybody. And that experience is vital. I mean, you talk about just having an opportunity to play and compete against the top guys. It matters at the next level. And again, man, this is a kid that we think will step in right away and be a contributor that can help Lubbock, man, this new era shift, you can say, coaching staff and leadership wise. So we'll be definitely tuned into him in years to come, man, down in Lubbock at Texas Tech. Okay, back on the rankings tip, JY. Let's keep it moving. We've gone through point guards. We've gone through combo guards. This week, let's take a look at the top shooting guards here in the class of 2022. Oh. And you mentioned, JY, with this top 5 group we got right here, most of these guys are already committed. All of them, I believe. So let's talk about that, man. Let's just go down a line. Obviously, number 1, you've got Shaedon Sharpe at Dream City, Arizona, who's headed to Kentucky. Tell us a little bit more about Shaedon if you want to. I know there's a lot about him.
Yeah, we've talked about him so much on the show. He's the number 1 guy in the nation. He's, to me, the most impressive pro prospect there is. I think there's a wide gap between him and everybody else. There's a no-brainer number one, top overall guy in the country. Easy to lock him in as the number one shooting guard there is.
Yes, sir. Boom. There you have it. Number 2, we've got Keontae George, high school in Texas, headed to Baylor. Any thoughts on Keontae?
Well, we talked about fit with Florida State and the types of players they bring in. Baylor landed a guy that fits them perfectly in Keontae George, a guy that can absolutely get buckets, that can shoot, that can score, that can create. I've kind of called him a mini Bradley Beal. I really like that comparison for him. Baylor does a great job of their guard play. We've seen that over the years under Scott Drew. Keontae George, when you talk about fit, I don't know if there's a better system and a better coaching staff that will help Keontae George take his game to the next level. Love him. Any other class, I think he'd be the definitive number one guy. With a guy like Shadon Sharp, who you can make an argument maybe he's a wing, maybe not a 2. Nevertheless, Keontae George, a special talent. I think he could lead the Big 12 in scoring in his college career.
Man, Keontae George's Baylor makes me want to fast forward and get to 2022 ASAP, man. Let's keep going. Number 3, Dariq Whitehead of Montverde, going to Duke. Talk to us about it.
Yeah, so Jon Scheyer, the new head coach and waiting there at Duke, has to set the standard for what type of basketball he wants to play. John was a terrific – I covered him. He was a
man. One of my favorites at Duke.
Buttery.
He's the leader, man. Cash and free, dog.
Like, you just forget about it. What's interesting is that he went after Dariq Whitehead, who, Coach K and his staff, they want him before Jon Scheyer kind of moved in that position. Mm-hmm. But what you get with Dariq Whitehead, when we saw him as a younger player, was a dynamic scorer, a guy that could attack from the corners and attack to the rim, great shooter. I think he could potentially be the best defender out of this group, out of this shooting guard class, which is an interesting pivot as you get older. And I think that comes with going to Montverde, where their talent is so balanced that you're going to score 12 points a game. That's a really good day in their offense because they have so much talent. We've seen so many guys that have gone to Montverde that are instant impact starters. I think Dariq Whitehead, for what Duke wants to do under Coach Jon Scheyer, is really important for them to land. I think he defensively could be an absolute monster in the ACC. And to me, again, I think he may be the most impressive defensive guard there is in this group.
Yes, sir. Coming in at number 4, Brandon Miller of Cane Ridge in Tennessee. Tell us about Brandon Miller.
Can you be a mystery man and be a top 15 guy in the country?
Hey,
I think the answer. I think
you can. Maybe you can.
I'm so fascinated by him. Number one, he's got tremendous size. Okay, 6'7", 6'8", probably like a 6'9", 6'10" wingspan, maybe longer. I don't know. But he's out of Nashville. Every time I talk to Andre Whitehead, our Tennessee editor, he always raves about his upside and his potential. I think if you talk to anybody that watches him regularly, it's always upside, upside, upside. There's no secret that he wants to explore the pro options. I think the G League could be a really good opportunity for him. He did visit Tennessee, the hometown state school, and Tennessee is no stranger to developing great wings as well over there in Knoxville. So I'm interested to see where that's going. I would lean more towards the G League or the pro route for Brandon Miller. But he's one of those players that when you're watching the NBA, like Darius Baisley, like that type of guy, that type of route, where on a good night, you're flipping through, NBA TV, looking for just a random game to watch and sit down, you're watching Oklahoma City, you see Darius Baisley like go off. Yeah. I think Brandon Miller could be that type of guy in a couple of years, that he connects with a really good program in the NBA that maybe is a non-playoff team, that he gets some chances to play there in the G League and kind of go back and forth as a two-way player. And then as a 23, 24-year-old guy in the NBA, you're like, holy crap, who's this guy? I think Brandon Miller falls in that category because he's got great NBA size for a shooting guard, high upside guy. And the guy's won tons of games in the Nashville area. We talked about Phoenix being a great budding city. I think Nashville secretly is one of those cities that in the next 10 years could be a tremendous basketball town. And Brandon Miller is part of that resurgence, if you will, for that city. So I really love him. He's number 4. He's our only non-committed guy. But again, I would crystal ball him to go on pro.
Going pro route, man. That route a lot of guys are taking nowadays. We'll keep an eye on Brandon for that. At number 5, Devon Johnson of Prolific Prep, headed to Oregon. Mr. Media, that's one of the other big time names, media guy.
Yeah. Well, if you know me well, I try to stay non-biased, but I'm always Team Go Ducks. Always. So I'm really excited about him going there. Dynamic guy, can play. I don't know if he's a shooting guard, I don't know if he's a combo guard, I don't know if he's a point guard. I put him in the shooting guards. But when you think about this top 5 for the shooting guards, this is the deepest position there is, I think, in the class overall. So for Devon Johnson to round us out as number 5, that tells you about the depth there is. Yeah. Dynamic guy. He's been all over the place. He's traveled all over the place, played for a lot of teams, highly competitive. He's one of those players I think this year, I'm going to see him a lot at Prolific. I'm going to see him a lot at Prolific this year. I'm interested in seeing how he grooves with that team. Every year, that prolific team has tons of talent. I think it's going to be interesting. We may actually move him off of the shooting guard list and put him more on the combo guard list, maybe in the point guard list. I'm interested in seeing how this season goes. I'm interested in seeing how Oregon season goes as well to see where he fits in. But the bottom line is he's a dynamic player. When the lights are on, he knows how to step into it and shine. I'm interested in seeing where his upside can go. And I'm interested in seeing ultimately what position allows him to grow the most for Devon Johnson going to Oregon Ducks.
Oh, that rounds it up, man. There you have it. Top 5 shooting guards we got here on HoopSeen.com for the class of 2022. I'll go through that list again one last time. At number 1, Shaedon Sharpe. Number 2, Keontae George. Number 3, Dariq Whitehead. Number 4, Brandon Miller. And number 5, Devon Johnson. Hey, you can head on over HoopSeen.com, man. We got a lot of analysis and stuff like that on there for you guys to check out. Okay, here we go. Moving along, JY. My next favorite, well, I can't even say next favorite, but another segment I love, man. Visitor of the weekend. Visitor of the weekend. And look, up first, it's kind of ironic. I mean, this is always going to be ironic, but when you're the son of a coach, you know, you're basically going to work with your dad for a day. I guess how you can say that. But let's talk about it, man. Jett Howard taking a visit to Michigan. What does that mean for the Michigan basketball program? Obviously, his father is Juwan Howard, who is the head coach of Michigan, University of Michigan. What does that mean for Juwan to get a commitment for his son?
Well, let's be really clear. Jett Howard's a tremendous player.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those things because your dad's coach, you make the assumption he's going to go. Jett Howard's a tremendous player that's being nationally recruited. I've had a chance to see him quite a bit when he came up through university school as a freshman. I've seen him a ton at USA Basketball. I've seen him a ton through all these different types of camps. He's gotten better. I think a really important glue guy. We're coming off the heels of last year's class where they were probably one of the best classes, maybe the number 1 class overall in the country, at least until Memphis shook things up here in the end. But Juwan Howard, you know, is arguably involved with some of the best players year in and year out. A guy like Jett Howard, I think comes in, if he does end up going there, which I'm making the assumption they probably will. Heck, I would even bet that maybe he even makes a commitment after this weekend. The most known secret there is, I think, in basketball, that Jett will probably go to Michigan. I would make that assumption. But I think you have to recruit guys like that can help glue all those talented classes together. And he may stick around for a couple of years. Heck, he may be really good and end up going pro pretty early. But anyways, it's important to note that he is going to take an official visit. You're right. He's on campus probably all the time there to Ann Arbor. Well, I mean, he's down in school in Florida, but like he's been up there enough. And he's going to take a campus visit. I think if he commits over the weekend, I wouldn't be shocked at all.
Man, that's crazy. I wonder if that's like, hey, you get a text from your dad. Hey, son, we want to recruit you to go to. That's always funny.
Yeah, how would you do that? I think I would ask my assistant coaches to recruit him, right? Get somebody else in there, somebody else's voice. That's what I would do.
Right. I got you, man. All right, next up, we've got JJ Starling heading to Northwestern. Talk to us about that.
So when we put our national top 100 rankings, I got a lot of texts from college coaches, even some pro guys like, hey, I think you ranked JJ Starling too low. I actually like that feedback a lot because it helps me out a lot with guys that I trust a lot. That the guys, I always laugh. Well, I never pay attention to rankings, but yet they always want to text me like, hey, you got me ranked too low.
Yeah.
I don't care about it. But I do appreciate that feedback because I think they're probably right. I actually went back and watched more film of him, really keyed in on him. And so I think you're looking at a guy that maybe could be a top 40 guy in the country. And for Northwestern to come in here and get him to come to town in Chicago, take a look at campus up there on the north side of Chicago, I think is really important. He's a Midwestern guy, a dynamic guard that can get in there and do a lot of things. If Northwestern were able to pull this off, this would be one of the most significant commitments during the Chris Collins era there at Northwestern.
Wow, man. Well, let's see if they get the job done. Hopefully JJ is able to have a great visit up in Northwestern. Man, big time academic school as well. So let's talk about Colin Smith now. JY, Colin Smith is headed to Vanderbilt in Tennessee. What does that mean for Vanderbilt to get a guy like Colin Smith if they can get him as a commitment after this visit?
So let's rewind it back to last week. I went to AZ Compass Prep's Media Day, which we talked about earlier in the show. I looked across the way from where I was sitting. There was my friend Jerry Stackhouse sitting here and cried across the way.
Wow.
Here he was watching Colin Smith, who was a priority guy. And it actually makes a lot of sense for what they're trying to do there. High academic kid, and Colin had a great conversation. In fact, there's a story right now on HoopSeen.com with Colin Smith talking about his recruitment. Going to really value those academics. We know Vanderbilt always has really good academics.
Absolutely.
He's that modern day interchangeable 3-4 man, 4-3 man that can step out and shoot, can go get a rebound under the basket, can run the floor. Really a guy that I didn't really see a lot of, to be quite honest with you, during the travel season. And so I was really excited to see him again. Didn't miss many shots at all during the practice. Loved his physicality, loved how he ran the floor. And so with Jerry Stackhouse, what they're trying to do, he's always going to be involved. Anytime you got an NBA guy that comes in there, okay, and recruits you and offers you a scholarship, you're going to take notice. Even if, like, a lot of kids never probably even saw Jerry Stackhouse play in the NBA.
Yo, that's
but I know his mom and dad did, right? And they're like, hey, this guy's legit. And so I think that's a really important one. You get a Dallas kid who's going to school in Arizona to go out to Nashville to take a visit. They already got Malik Dia, a guy that we love, a guy that we've seen in our preview camps, an interchangeable guy. So I think if you pair Malik Dia and Colin Smith together, that's actually a really interesting front court or a wing, matchup, interchangeable guys. So that's a really significant prospect for them to get on campus and come out there. Colin's got other visits in store. Again, go check out the store on HoopSeen.com, see where he's going to be going. But I actually really like that visitor a lot for this weekend.
Yes, sir. And again, like JY said, man, visit HoopSeen.com. You'll be able to see a lot about the guys taking their visits. Again, Jet Howard to Michigan, JJ Starling Northwestern, and Colin Smith at Vanderbilt. All three of those guys are taking visits this weekend, and they combine to make our trio of this week's visitors of the weekend. Wow, man, breeze through that episode, JY. Also, we want to remind everyone, hey, man, visit hoopseen.com/rankings, and you'll be able to check out the national rankings for the class of 2022. JY, again, just give everyone a quick, not even a preview, but like, what can they expect to see in these national rankings? Obviously, it's a ton of good players. Like, why HoopSeen national rankings?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you asked that. Like, we go out there. Okay, we're out there on those streets. We're in those gyms. We're looking. I got a really cool DM. I actually really like this. I wish more young people that are in the business. Let me find it real quick.
Okay.
I appreciated it. I really did appreciate it. It was an account. I'm gonna give them a shout out. Okay. Hey, Idaho Baller Athletes. All right.
Nice.
That's a new one. Not a lot of players out of Idaho. Actually, I got a tip about a 6'11" guy out of Coeur d'Alene. I need to do some digging right there. But I got a question. He goes, what advice would you give to someone looking out to be a scout? And I said two things: be in the gym, and two, know everyone in it. And I believe that. And I think that goes into our rankings when you're in the gym, of really trying to watch. And I think that we really focus on that, where we want to be authentic. We don't care about who you play for. We don't care what circuit you play for. I want to see talent. And I hope our rankings reflect that.
Yeah.
There's 20 plus years of experience from this chair alone, but you mix in my guy, Justin Byerly, who's been doing it for a really long time. But more importantly, we've got a staff of young people that are now involved, where they've been handpicked by our staff and vetted. And I think we've got three of the most impressive rising stars there are in the business, with Breonna Patton down in Florida. Okay, DeCourtland Christian in Alabama, and Josh Tech in Georgia. And then let's not forget about the OG Andre Whitehead in Tennessee. Okay. And we're growing that staff too. Okay. I've got some people that we're talking to that we're going to be adding to the staff here soon. But I think that professionalism and that experience, I think, really lends into our rankings, where we're looking for long-term potential. We're in the gym as much as we can. Our preview camps are so crucial to that. That's why I'm so excited for DeCourtland Christian, Alabama, coming up this weekend. Our Alabama camp is stacked. It's absolutely stacked. We've been doing that now. This might be our year, 7 or 8. Mm-hmm. And if you've been an NBA player out of the state of Alabama, you've played at that camp. And this year's camp, I think from top to bottom, maybe our deepest one we've ever had. And I think that lends well to the work that DeCourtland's put in. So that's what goes into our rankings. We want to see as much as we can, want to see in person. But you know what? I got a TV over here that I watch about 6 games a day on. Okay. And we're breaking down that film. So every day we're looking at our list and we're reevaluating them. So they're very fluid. And so you may look at it today. Heck, tomorrow I might change. But that's how the stock market goes too. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, Austin.
No, you did, man. That's why you should head on over to hoopseen.com and check out those rankings and national rankings. And hey, we got the rankings as well. So make sure y'all do that. And then again, hey, shout out DC. That Alabama preview camp is coming up, and he has done an incredible job getting that going. So man, shout out to him. Man, that concludes episode number 21. JY, any last words for the listeners of the Just Minute Podcast?
Yeah, we're back in the gym, man. Like I said, preview camps. I'm taking in the schools here out in the West Coast. And before you know it, man, we're going to be back in the gym for the season coming right up. It's right around the corner. I've already started getting some schedules emailed to me from schools already, just looking at the season. So I'm starting to book December travel already. for where we're headed out. So all I know, if you need a tip to where I'm going to be, see that behind me, that sunshine, that's what I'm chasing all winter long, man.
Man, that's crazy. No more Atlanta for JY. Straight.
Oh, no, I didn't say that. You said that. I didn't say that.
Well, JY he might make some trips down here, man. But his home state is no longer in Georgia. Okay. Like he's in Arizona. And I guess that's a good move, man.
So my family is, baby. So your home is where your family is.
Love it, man. Shout out to everybody out there at HoopSeen West. Well, JY, thank you for your time, man, and all of our listeners, all of our HoopSeen Just a Minute family. Man, we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in with us. This is episode number 21. Share it with a friend. Make sure you're following us on Twitter at HoopSeen. Head on over to HoopSeen.com for even more analysis. As always, I'm your HoopSeen host, Austin Smith, and the man with the plan who joins me each and every episode is our editor-in-chief here at HoopSeen.com, Justin Young. Thanks for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you all next week.